All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. My name is Eric Paulzine with 9 to 5 Sports. Going to be breaking down the Thursday night football game, a game in which Vegas thinks is going to be kind of an ugly game once again on Thursday night. The game over and under is set at 43.5, which if you've watched both of these teams play, it makes sense. The Cardinals have kind of struggled. Okay, you would think their offense would be better than it is, and obviously Marquise Brown being out does not help that offense out at all. So the over and under does make sense. Tack on the fact that the Saints' top players are all banged up in some capacity. You know, Alvin Kamara has been battling an injury this whole season. You got Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry both out, and then you have Jameis Winston still out, although Andy Dalton's not too much of a drop-off still. There are a lot of question marks on this slate. We do have DeAndre Hopkins back. We'll see what he does. So we're going to break down this slate, guys, but first I want to get into a couple of prop bets that I see out there for tonight's Thursday night football game. All right, guys, just want to give a quick thank you to today's video sponsor, Sports Battle app, and also Stat Hero. So Sports Battle app, we'll start with them, is a daily fantasy sports prop-based app. And I actually like a lot of the bets that I'm putting up on the screen right now for tonight's slate. On Monday night, I told you guys basically to bet the under where you could, and that was a highly profitable approach for you. So go in there and download Sports Battle app today. A lot of you guys are familiar with the prop-based apps that are out there. This is the one that I like the best. I just like how the app functions the best. So get out there, download today. Use the promo code 9TO5 to get $5 cash back on a deposit of over $50 or more. And now touching on Stat Hero. Stat Hero I like because they have 3 different contests. The contest that I like the most is playing against their lineups that they put out there to try to beat their lineups. Now this week they stepped up their game, so you're going to have to try your best to beat those lineups, but it is a fun thing to do. Get out there and try Stat Hero today. Use the promo code with the numbers 925. All right. Now let's get into today's pick. All right, I'm going to start off with the Cardinals because I believe that side of the ball is the easiest to predict. And I'll start off with the best value on the slate due to the injury to Marquise Brown. It's going to be Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore is going to be an elite option on this slate. I think I'll put him in the captain spot as well, just because he should have a nice safe floor. For me, it's really, do I want to play Kyler Murray or Rondale Moore in the captain spot? Possibly Zach Ertz as well at his price point, but Rondale Moore is the one play that makes the most sense. Since he's been back, he's been getting a ton of snaps, okay? The last 2 weeks, it's been over 90% of the snaps. Now with Marquise Brown out, I do think we're going to see even more targets forced his way. And they've already been doing that. He's seen 8 and 10 targets the last 2 weeks. Okay, over 10 DK points in each of those weeks. Rondale Moore should be a nice safe play, especially against the Saints that are going to be out without Marshawn Lattimore as well. So like Rondale Moore at 8.7 for the captain price is a great price point. You could also just play him in the flex as well and get that nice safe floor. Obviously, I'm hoping for more of an upside. Maybe he gets to, 8 receptions or maybe 100 receiving yards or maybe even a touchdown. Like that would all be great. But at his price point, Rondale Moore just kind of seems like an easy play on this slate. And then I did mention Zach Ertz as well. Zach Ertz is playing about 90% of the snaps recently as well. With Marquise Brown out, I do think those targets that have been there for him the whole season are going to continue to be there for him. Seeing over 10 targets 4 times this season, and he's been over 10 DK points in every game thus far this season. He has been extremely consistent, and even with the matchup with the Saints, which is a matchup in which would suggest you should stay away from it, being the second best matchup on the slate or second worst matchup on the slate, I still think Zach Ertz is going to have a nice safe floor. Then we do got to wait and see on James Conner. I'm expecting him to sit. Thus, I'm expecting Eno Benjamin to be really an elite play on this slate. Okay. Last week, we saw him get 3 targets and 15 rushing attempts. Okay. He should have been able to have a better game against the Seahawks, but if he's going to be getting that workload, 18 opportunities in this offense, that's highly appealing to me. He came in and saw 87% of the snaps last week as well. At the very least, the targets that he's been consistently getting, around 3 to 4 each game, that should mean that his floor is high. That should mean that he's getting about 4 to 5, points in the passing game. Okay. And thus, I just think, Benjamin is a pretty cheap, price point play, a very cheap, like safe, let's just say 7 to 15 DK point play. At that price point, I'm definitely willing to take that. And then from there, you're probably wondering, all right, well, what about Robbie Anderson? What about DeAndre Hopkins? Okay. Well, Robbie Anderson, I really feel like this trade was not made because of Marquise Brown. Not entirely, I should say. I think that part of the reason they made this trade is because AJ Green has just looked washed. Okay. They need someone that can be kind of a deep threat down the field. Okay. And I think that's part of the reason due to why they made the trade as well, is that like DeAndre Hopkins maybe just lost a step, because it did kind of seem like that partially last season. Okay, those touchdowns will still be there for him. You know how like a tight end or even a receiver, they become like a red zone guy because they're big bodied, their positioning is still there, but their elite breakout speed or the quick twitch muscles are kind of not there as much. That could be what we saw last year with DeAndre Hopkins, which probably led to his suspension, I do think he's going to be like hungry, ready to go. At his price point, it does seem pretty priced up, okay? And just what will the chemistry be like for Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins with him being suspended for so long? That's the biggest question. It's like, it's a Thursday night football game as well. Like, what is that, 3.5 days of practice? I don't know. It does seem like a stay away. It wouldn't be shocking to see him go out and have a great game, but it also wouldn't be shocking to see him like tweak a muscle as well. Not enough practice time in there. And that's what worries me about DeAndre Hopkins. You can certainly play him. If he's high owned, though, which I think he'll be higher owned than he should be, then I'm just going to fade him. And then Kyler Murray, yes, it's looked ugly. It has. Okay, but he should be a safe 15 DK point play plus. Okay, can he get to 20 DK points? He certainly can. He's running the ball a ton. So, that could be there as well. I'm not sure we're going to get a passing touchdown out of him. We'll see. But I think Kyler Murray is super safe play. He's a player that I do want to be on this slate. And I will say the Cards D has been a little bit better than, I personally expected. If you want to play them, you can. Obviously, the Saints are a little bit banged up, so you could play them in a pinch if you needed to. And lastly, I do want to mention Greg Dortch. There is a path in which I see him possibly playing about 40% of the snaps while they work in DeAndre Hopkins and while they try to fill in Marquise Brown. He is someone that had looked good this season. It wouldn't be too shocking to see him have a good game. I'm just not counting on that. All right, for the Saints, it's kind of difficult, to be honest with you guys, because Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry are ruled out. That means that we're going to see some of Marquise Callaway. Okay, Callaway has seen 6, 3, and 7 targets the last 3 weeks with those guys out. Okay, last week, Chris Olave was out. I think that's why we saw him get 7 targets or so, but it wouldn't be shocking to see him get those targets again. He's been playing about 90% of the snaps in week 4 to about 70%, 75% of the snaps the last 2 weeks. Okay, so he's going to be on the field a decent amount. It's just whether he can convert and get a few more targets his way. Game flow does depend on that, his productivity. But at his price point, I do think he's going to be worth the risk for you guys. Not someone I'm particularly going out of my way to play, but he is someone that could do well. Juwan Johnson is the play that I want to point out as well, value-wise, because if you're trying to close out your build and you're at this price point, I would feel perfectly fine ending up on him. This is a good matchup going against the Cardinals, and he is someone that has seen about 74% of the snaps. So he is someone that could produce, and it wouldn't be shocking for him to produce. It wouldn't be shocking for him to get to 8 DK points, 6 DK points. We could see that happening. I will say, Traquan Smith, he has had some flashy, solid plays, just not enough volume. He did see a decent amount of snaps last week, about 70% of the snaps last week, but I don't know. I think I'd just rather play Marquise Callaway at a cheaper price point. Then a question that a lot of people are going to have is, can they play Alvin Kamara? I would say so. Alvin Kamara has looked like Alvin Kamara this whole season, even being a little bit banged up. They were cautious with him, and that's why he sat out a couple of games. Smart. I like that a lot, but the thing is, he has looked like his same self, okay? In the first game, a little bit of Mark Ingram, kind of just random plays that he wasn't in on went for touchdowns. And it's not like he did anything poorly. It's just that the offense kind of just played so well in certain situations that it wasn't Alvin Kamara's turn to get the points. We kind of seen the last 2 weeks, their best player is going to come through. And so, if there is one Saints player that I want to be on the most going out of my way to play, it's going to be Alvin Kamara, because I do think those targets will continue to be there for him. I do think he'll have a decent game rushing as well. It might not be elite, but I think it'll be good enough to be a serviceable play for you. And I will say that Chris Olave, guys, he has looked so good. I remember touching on it, I think in week 2, maybe even week 1. No, it was week 2, when I'm like, man, he has had so many deep opportunities. He's been open. Him and Jameis Winston just weren't connecting. Okay, some of that was a little bit on Olave running a weird route. Most of it was on Jameis Winston. And then in week 3, they came through, really dominated. And really since then, he has been eye-poppingly good. Okay, so yes, 7.4. I would much rather play Chris Olave at 7.4 than pay up for DeAndre Hopkins at his price point. Chris Olave has looked like a stud. And it kind of pains me to say, as a Badger fan, as you guys can see, given the fact that he was a Ohio State Buckeye and they always beat the crap out of the Badgers, but he should be a very strong play. Chris Olave is a play that I want to work into my builds, but as you guys can see, it's how do you do that? How do you go about getting him in there? Maybe instead of Eno Benjamin, I would go with Chris Olave, and then I could go with Marquise Callaway and have a build that has a nice safe floor. Okay, and this is a build that I think should have a good chance to cash. Now, the only issue that we have to worry about is if Taysom Hill gets a rushing touchdown or two. A lot of his production's just lucky. It is. You can't predict it. Okay, can he break a couple of big runs for a touchdown? Sure. Okay, can he get a goal line carry for a touchdown? Sure. You just got to hope and pray that there are no penalties on the 1 yard line, a defensive pass interference on the 1 yard line, because then it probably will be Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill. You can play him if you want to, maybe have him in 10% of your builds just in case that upside game happens, but not something you're particularly going out of your way to play. Andy Dalton is expected to start. I'm not going to be playing him. And if, like, let's just say Jameis Winston was to start, I don't really like either of them. They're both fine. They're both, lineup fillers. Like, I'm just not going out of my way to play them. I want to have a nice safe floor with my builds, but both of them could produce. Both of them can get to 15 DK points, whichever one it is. But that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to join 9 to 5, become a 9 to 5 member, it is $10 a month. Included in that is going to be the NFL DraftKings lineup optimizer, just for $10 a month. That's a pretty good value. Included in that is going to be the cheat sheet, as well as the golf package, which we've done pretty well at, the NBA DFS cheat sheet, which is live now as well. So all that's included for $10 a month. It's a way for me to help you guys at a cheap value while giving you the information you need to succeed. Also, make sure to check out the sponsors of 9 to 5, Sports Battle app, and also Stat Hero. Both bunch of fun games out there. Enjoy. Take advantage of the free money that's out there with those promo codes. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and as always, let's keep cashing.